Happy New Year, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Rossini's Il Viaggio a Reims with conductor Alessandro De Marchi, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. This marks the second time I saw Jan Boss's production of Rossini's Il Viaggio a Reims at the Deutsche Oper Berlin because I wanted to see, hear, and witness Martina Russomanno perform the role of Madama Cortese. She also performed the role of Corina about a year ago at the Rossini Festival in Pesaro, Italy. As I also researched her trajectory as a performer, I found out that she used to be a former Disney star in Italy back between the tail end of the 2000s and the beginning of the 2010s. By the time she reached her late teens and early 20s, she made the switch to classical singing and eventually opera, thus predominantly specializing in the full lyric and coloratura soprano roles such as Susanna from Le Nozze di Figaro, Fiordiligi from Così fan tutte, Violetta Valérie from La Traviata, Dircé or Glauce from Médée or Medea, and Princesse Eudoxie from Alevis la Juive. I was quite curious to see and hear how Martina Russomanno's voice was going to fare live because I first experienced the sound of her voice through a recording of her interpretation of Bel Raggio Lusinghier from Rossini's Semiramide when she performed this at the AIDS Gala about a month ago. And as I heard her voice live, I was quite impressed with how well controlled, easy sounding, and absolutely homogeneous and gorgeous her voice was. It was a well-balanced, well-tempered, even, focused, clear, and sufficiently silvery lyric soprano voice. Her voice kind of reminds me of an amalgamation of Anna Moffo, Mirella Freni, Ileana Cotrubas, and Maria Chiara, especially when she has the agility found in Anna Moffo's coloratura soprano voice, the creaminess found in Mirella Freni's and Maria Chiara's lyric soprano voices, especially when they sang roles such as Mimi from La Bohème and Liu from Turandot, and Ileana Cotrubas being the complete package of sparkling coloratura soprano singing and sweet lyric soprano singing and great coordination of head voice and chest voice. And that was what Martina Russomanno accomplished tonight as Madama Cortese. She was well coordinated throughout the registers. She also had great discipline as a singing actress. And most of all, she was quite the beauty on stage, thus showing a great deal of theatrical charisma, elegance, and a whole lot of charm that made her performance as Madama Cortese one great feast for the eyes and ears. Vocally speaking, she would be the type of voice who could sing the likes of Mimi from La Bohème, Liu from Turandot, Amalia from I Masnadiari, Magda di Civri from La Rondine, Isabelle from Robert le Diable, Marguerite de Valois from Les Huguenots, and Micaela from Carmen because she has that full-toned, lovely, and silvery lyric soprano voice that can hit the high notes well. And would also be interesting to hear her as Mathilde from Guillaume Tell, and maybe even in 5 years' time, Anna Bolena from Donizetti's Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda from Donizetti's Maria Stuarda, and Elisabetta from Roberto Devereux. But let the voice take time to mature because this is a voice that is still quite delicate and still also has a lot more time to fully ripen, mature, and therefore grow with elegance and beauty. I would not want to hear Martina Russomanno end up taking way too many heavy roles and therefore end up disappearing into the mediocrity of opera. Her voice still has that delicate ease and has that silky tone that I've ended up loving about her. That silky tone that is reminiscent of silk, chiffon, velvet, and the finest fabrics that China, France, and her native Italy could ever produce. Coupling that chiffon-like silkiness is that rich creaminess that makes her voice absolutely gorgeous and teeming with peerless musicianship. Her balanced tone also made her master the art of singing head voice and chest voice, as well as coordinating head voice and chest voice to be a thoroughly uniform voice. Martina Russomanno's potential is still teeming with a lot of greatness and a whole lot of flexibility because she has wonderful artistry to boot, and on top of that, her charismatic stage presence and vocal presence made her assets all the more thoroughly brilliant. So I have to give my hat off to Martina Russomanno for such a fine vocal performance as Madama Cortese, and a job well done for making this role come to life with seraphim-like charisma and womanly charm. Lilith Daftian was thoroughly gorgeous, equally consummate, and absolutely brilliant as Corina. Yes, her tone might seem a little bit too light for this otherwise lyrical role, as I would expect a lot more vocal creaminess, richness, fullness, and roundness, as well as a lot more color to make Corina work as an overall character, much like the ones I've been listening to in the likes of Cecilia Gasdia, Sylvia McNair, and my personal favorite Corina of all time, Anna Cristina Capola, and as of today, Elena Zalagova and Elena Gorshunova. But I thoroughly digress. Yes, Lilith Daftian's voice is a bit on the white side for Corina, but when she takes her voice out for a spin, full of elegant tones, beautiful legato singing, and a thorough evenness from head voice to chest voice, she was able to demonstrate her signature great musicianship that makes her a thorough and consummate singing actress. Also, when listening to her, her voice did sound like a combination of Ileana Cotrubaș and Lucia Pop. Ileana Cotrubaș because she was the complete package when it comes to singing thoroughly, as well as mastering the art of great bel canto singing, and Lucia Pop also because of her fantastic balance and her sparkling silvery tone. And these are assets that Lilith Daftian has at her disposal: a silvery, sparkling, silky tone, and a lot of fantastic musicianship that made her performance as Corina a thoroughly wonderful standout from beginning to end, full of exceptional bel canto singing found in her lyric coloratura soprano voice, and her efforts as one of the finest singers I've ever heard today were, as always, absolutely brilliant. I continue to see a fantastic future in Lilith Daftian in roles such as Lucia Ashton from Lucia de Lammermoor, Elvira from I Puritani, and Violetta Valeri from La Traviata. She definitely has a wonderful instrument, and I hope she continues to maintain that wonderful consistency found in her silvery lyric coloratura soprano voice. Stephanie Wake Edwards was thoroughly consummate and absolutely grand as Marquesa Melibea. Her chest tones definitely grew a lot stronger, and her vocal evenness was at an all-time high. And these are the type of roles that I would love to see Stephanie Wake Edwards in a lot more. The leading lady mezzo-soprano roles, because she has a fantastic instrument, well balanced all throughout the registers, sufficient plushness that could make her mezzo-soprano voice stand out so beautifully, and therefore have that smoldering timbre that can be seductive to listen to with such élan, outstanding quality, and also fantastic musicianship. That is just how much Stephanie Wake Edwards continues to win me over as an audience member. I cannot wait to listen to her in main roles such as Carmen from Carmen, Dalila from Salso e Dalila, Brangene from Tristan und Isolde, Magdalene from the Meistersinger von Nürnberg, Adriano from Rienzi, Margaret from Le Roi d'Us, Niklaus from Le Comte of Man, Waltraute from Götterdämmerung, Isabella from L'Italienne in Algérie, Sarah from Roberto de Vereux, and both Cassandre and Didon from Le Toyon. The possibilities for Stephanie Wake Edwards are absolutely endless, and she definitely has that gorgeous, full, and absolutely creamy mezzo-soprano voice that is both plush and flexible all throughout the registers, and the totally fantastic musicianship that she continues to demonstrate was at an all-time high. So I salute Stephanie Wake Edwards for her superb efforts as Marquesa Melibea. Hye-Young Moon was pristinely charming as Contessa de Folleville. I've seen her conquer the Queen of the Night. I've seen her conquer Fiackermilli. Heck, I've even seen her conquer some of the more high-flying coloratura soprano roles, especially when she had a go at Madame Mao or Chang Jing from Adams, Nixon, and China, although I've yet to see and hear her in that role. But her interpretation of I Am the Wife of Mao Zedong was absolutely brilliant, as was her interpretation of Partir au Ciel. She was thoroughly brilliant all around, as well as thoroughly charismatic as a singing actress. Her silvery, flexible, and thoroughly exciting lyric coloratura soprano voice was definitely charming to listen to, and she was also charming as a singing actress, thus ensuring that she provides the role of Contessa de Folleville with great charisma, awesome comic timing, and sufficient kittishness to make her a thoroughly enjoyable character. There is a wonderful future for Hye-Young Moon in roles such as Zerbinetta from Ariadne auf Naxos, both the 1912 and the 1916 versions, Lakmé from Delibes' Lakmé, Philine from Thomas Mignon, Ophélia from Thomas Hamlet, the Fairy Godmother or La Fée from Massenet Cendrillon, Rosina from Il Barbiere de Siviglia, and Comtesse Adèle du Fumetier from Le Comptoir. The possibilities for Hye-Young Moon as a sparkling and absolutely gorgeous lyric coloratura soprano are absolutely endless. And she possesses the chutzpah, charisma, and indubitably endearing stage presence to make roles such of this ilk work. And her performance as Contessa de Folleville was also a phenomenal standout from beginning to end. Michot Marrero was also sparkling and charismatic as Modestina, using her lyric coloratura / light lyric soprano voice to make this role shine, as I also saw her in that same role last year, and she did such a fabulous job nailing Modestina in all of her glory, especially when it came to her physical agility that made her thoroughly charismatic and made her an exciting feast for the eyes and ears. So brava to Michot Marrero for doing such a fabulous job as Modestina. Davia Boulay was also charming as Delia, using her creamy and absolutely gorgeous mezzo-soprano voice to make this youthful young lady be a wonderful character and be just as charming. She also did a fabulous job in making Delia a thoroughly charismatic character to witness on stage, and her vocal technique showed no signs of strain, no signs of holding back, no signs of wobbling or wavering. It was a thoroughly focused voice that she maintained all throughout the years, and she continued to sell it as Delia. Speaking of continuing to sell it, Alexandra Iones was just as magnificent as Maddalena. Her chest voice was in equally wonderful form, and her coordination continued to grow with strength, formidability, and fortitude. This is no surprise because these days, Alexandra Iones has been doing a lot more dramatic mezzo roles, and I also encourage her to look to inspirations such as Ebe Stignani, Giulietta Signonato, and Gianna Pederzini to hear how proper Italianate singing should sound like, because these ladies also had a go at singing lyrical and more dramatic roles with equal flair and equal success. And I'm sure that once Alexandra Iones continues to look at Gianna Pederzini, Ebestiniani, and Giulietta Simeonato as great inspirations in terms of how she can continue to do such a fabulous job as a singer, then she can definitely continue to prolong her career in the most exciting, let alone best possible way. Omar Mancini was a consummate, handsome, virile, exciting, and masculinely sexy Conte di Liebeskopf. What makes him even sexier is the way he was able to coordinate head voice and chest voice, cover his notes, as well as unleash some exciting top notes, especially where his thrilling top Cs are concerned. They sounded brilliant. They sounded clean, clear, and thoroughly piercing. When listening to Omar Mancini's lyric tenor voice, he sounded like a phenomenal combination of Giuseppe Di Stefano, Juan Onfina, Giacinto Prandelli, Ottavio Garaventa, Renato Cionni, Luciano Pavarotti, and Salvatore Fisichella. And this is also where his comparisons with Pavarotti and Fisichella are also evident. The way he was able to make his top notes ring with clarity and a whole lot of clarion brilliance was in thoroughly wonderful evidence. The way he was able to effortlessly launch at them without any strain or effort made him a great star that was worth rooting for. I'm sure that the temptations of singing Manrico's Di quella pira from Verdi's Il Trovatore, Arnoldo's O mutuo asil, which then leads to the cabaletta Coriam Vogliam from Rossini's Guglielmo Tell, and Eleazar's Rachel Quand du Seigneur from Alevis La Juive might seem ubiquitous, as well as I stated before, really tempting. But he will have to develop his voice much further, let alone wait for another 5 to 10 years to fully tackle these arias with elan and excitement. Because from what I've heard in Omar Mancini's voice tonight, he does have great potential to sing the grander roles such as Idreno from Semiramide, Arnold or Arnoldo from Guillaume Tell or Guglielmo Tell, Rôle de Nazi from Les Huguenots, Robert le Diable from Robert le Diable, Alim from Loa d'Alloro, Arrigo from I Vespri Siciliani, Arvino from I Lombardi alla Prima Crociata, and I'm sure that he would make a fabulous Rodolfo from La Bohème and Hoffmann from Le Comte Hoffmann. The possibilities for this gentleman are absolutely endless, and he could also take some notes from the likes of Alfredo Kraus, Nikolai Gedda, and Sandor Tonia in terms of how proper lyric tenor singing should sound like, and in terms of his high notes, he could very well take inspiration from Salvatore Fisichella in terms of how he can preserve them, as well as ensure that the quality remains excellent. And let's not forget about Luciano Pavarotti. Who could ever forget about Luciano Pavarotti, especially when I argue that he could definitely be one of Omar Mancini's great vocal inspirations. He's got it all. He's got to also make sure that he not only preserves his handsome lyric tenor instrument well, which is so full of flexibility and so full of that sexy virility that makes him exciting to listen to, but he's also got to be thoroughly disciplined so that he can preserve his handsome instrument with everything he's got. Nevertheless, I still have to give Omar Mancini a whole lot of credit and kudos for such an outstanding job as Il Conte di Liebeskopf. Kyle Miller was also just as sexy, virile, handsome, and thoroughly engaging and charismatic as Don Alvaro. As I've heard him for over a year now, I have seen how this Cavalier baritone has been growing. His voice has definitely been growing in nobility, coupled with some of that virile roughness that nonetheless made him a thoroughly engaging and charismatic performer. I've also seen this young Cavalier baritone go from strength to strength. Yes, there are times that he still performs some of the smaller roles, but these days he's been tackling a lot more leading man roles, and this is definitely the direction that I would love to see him in a lot more, because he has great material to work with. And I'm sure that if he also looks up to the likes of Rolando Panerai, Piero Cappuccilli, and Mario Sereni in terms of how true Italianate baritone singing should sound like, then I'm sure that he could also conquer roles such as the Herald or the Heruf from Lohengrin, Enrico Ashton from Lucia di Lammermoor, Belcore from L'Elisir d'Amore, and Malatesta from Don Pasquale. He definitely has a lot of great material to work with, and I'm pretty sure that if he continues to develop his instrument in the best possible way, we will definitely hear him in all these wonderful roles, and he will therefore shine like the brightest of stars and the most blazing of comets. Speaking of the most blazing of comets and the brightest of stars, Kang Yoon Shine Lee also shone like the most brilliant of stars, especially where his vocal emission was concerned. I've always loved and admired everything about Kang Yoon Shine Lee's light lyric tenor voice. He has definitely grown in strength, formidability, handsomeness, and awesomely flawless technique that I was at my knees just wanting to hear a lot more of him, because that is just how much Kang Yoon Shine Lee grew as a handsome and thoroughly consummate light lyric tenor with an exciting voice, especially where his piercing high notes above the high C are concerned. He launched at them so effortlessly, and he also launched at them with elan, excitement, and equally great timing and precision. There was not one sour note that I spotted with Kang Yoon Shine Lee, and he was thoroughly flawless. I would definitely recommend him to also look up to all of the great tenors of the past, such as Nikolai Gedda, Alfredo Kraus, Fritz Wunderlich, Peter Schreier, and Ryland Davies in terms of how proper light lyric tenor singing should sound like. And I dare not forget about Luigi Alva. And once he masters what true light lyric tenor singing can sound like, he could also conquer roles such as Edgardo from Lucia di Lammermoor, Elvino from La Sonambula, Arturo Talbo from I Puritani, Alfredo Germont from La Traviata, Nadir from Le Pêcheur de Perles, Romeo from Romeo et Juliette, Vincent from Mireille, and De Grieux from Massenet's Manon. He definitely has a lot of great material to work with, and I would love to keep on seeing Kang Yoon Shine Lee's star thoroughly shine like the brightest of stars, the brightest of diamonds, and the most enchanting of crystal coves, let alone of crystal grottos. Therefore, I give 1,000, let alone 1,000,000 salutes and applauses to Kang Yoon Shine Lee and his excellent vocal artistry. Jared Wehrlein was a tall, handsome, virile, and thoroughly awesome Antonio, all thanks to his handsome stage presence and his equally handsome and focused bass baritone voice that was round, rich, and totally manly. I fell in love with everything that Jared Wehrlein continued to muster as a thoroughly great singing actor, and I give him a lot of kudos for conquering the role of Antonio with virility and masculine charm. Alvaro Zambrano makes his comeback at the Deutsche Oper Berlin to take on Zeffirino, who is essentially an amalgamation of Don Luigino, Zeffirino of course, and Gelsomino. Therefore, he pretty much is Don Luigino, Zeffirino, and Gelsomino rolled up into one character, Zeffirino himself. And he did the role of Zeffirino a whole lot of justice, using his light lyric tenor / character tenor voice to such a great effect. He also mastered fine bel canto singing with everything that he's got, full of charisma, full of charm, and full of his signature wonderful stage presence that made him a thoroughly inviting singer to watch and witness. He stood very well on his own and also complemented all of the singing that was going on from the main tenors, let alone the main male singers, as well as all the main players, and did so with charisma, charm, and a whole lot of lovability. So bravo to Alvaro Zambrano for such an engaging and charismatic performance as Don Luigino, Ceferino, and Gelsomino, and in this production's case, Ceferino and Basta. Bravo to Alvaro Zambrano and his fine technique found in his light lyric tenor voice. Michael Baghdadze was tall, handsome, manly, virile, and dashing as Lord Sydney. He continues to grow with additional resonance in his voice, and he knew how to darken his voice to make this natural bass role work. It should be no surprise that Michael Baghdadze also specialized in roles such as Monterone from Rigoletto and Paolo Albiani from Simon Boccanegra, and even the tutor from Richard Strauss's Elektra. Although Paolo Albiani is essentially a baritone role, which could also be sung by bass baritones. But I digress because Michael Baghdadze's handsome and charismatic and manly stage presence was thoroughly alluring to witness. And I definitely enjoyed his rendition of Lord Sydney, all thanks to his handsome charisma, although I still miss that vocal smoothness, evenness, and natural squealo-laden darkness found in my number one most favorite interpreter of Lord Sydney of all time, the one and only Samuel Ramey, because he had that vocal darkness. He had that rich basso cantante voice that could also reach the heights of a bass baritone and therefore prove himself to be one of the finest purveyors of great bel canto singing for a true bass baritone, let alone a true basso cantante or even a true basso profondo. Heck, Samuel Ramey can do everything from the basso profondo role of Sarastro to the more basso cantante part of Filippo II, and even a deep basso profondo role such as Sparafucile from Rigoletto, and I dare not forget about the complete package that he delivered as Don Giovanni from Mozart's Don Giovanni. The man could do it all because he had excellent technique. And who could ever forget about Mephistopheles from Mephistopheles and Faust, and even La Damasceau de Faust? He could do it all, and he did so with aplomb. And that's something that I would love for Michael Baghdadze to continue to be inspired by. Look up to Samuel Ramey in terms of how great and proper bel canto singing should really sound like. Properly dark and as well as thoroughly focused. Yes, the nitpick that I still had about Michael Baghdadze's voice being a bit on the throaty side and being a bit baritonal for my ears is still there, but I could forgive whatever Achilles heels Michael Baghdadze had because his tall, handsome, and dashing stage presence and the sufficient vocal resonance that he possessed made him thoroughly engaging to witness. So I still have to give my hat off to Michael Baghdadze for his diligence as well as his overall great use of handsome charisma and completely engaging style to make him a formidable performer. Artur Garbas was resonant, virile, manly, and robustly round and rich as Don Profondo. His voice has definitely lived up to this particular role because he knew how to cover his notes exceedingly well. There was not one note that I thought was nasal or too throaty. It was well balanced, and he continues to grow in a lot of great discipline, let alone be one of the greatest purveyors of bel canto singing to this very day. Whether he sings those rich, deep bass notes or combine those with a lot of the high notes for a baritone, he definitely had it all, and he was the thoroughly complete package from beginning to end, thus showing exceptional musicianship and an equally great amount of style that made him exceptionally laudable as a singing actor. Porrick Rowan was also resonant, handsome, and wonderful to listen to as Don Prudencio. His vocal prowess continues to grow with richness, handsomeness and virility, and he continues to be an absolutely engaging performer and a magnetic one at that. He knew how to master his round and rich voice to make sure that that bass baritone richness is well preserved. Philip Yekal is still on the light side as Barone di Trombonok, as I do prefer a natural bass baritone voice for this role, i.e. Enzo Dara, to name one exceptional example, because with Philip Yekal, he's more of the type of singer who should be singing Valentin from Faust and Mercutio from Romeo et Juliet. It's a voice that's still pretty light to my ears and a bit on the white side. Nevertheless, he still has charisma, he still has virile charm, he also has sufficient excitement to make this role work, and he was never boring to watch. He was always surprising and always exciting to witness, and he also had sufficient charisma to make him a fine performer, thus making him stand on his own 2 feet well. While I still prefer additional vocal darkness and vocal richness, I still have to give Philip Yekal a good amount of credit for what he was able to accomplish as a singing actor doing the role of Barone di Trombonok with sufficient charisma and enough theatrical interest to make him quite fun to watch. So overall, the singing was still excellent from everybody. I still have to give a lot of credit to Martina Russomanno for striking up the band as Madama Cortese. Her silky, creamy, and luscious lyric soprano voice that can do coloratura soprano roles really well does have great potential to grow. I would definitely love to see her one day as Mimi from La Boheme, Antonia from Le Comte of Man, Louise from Charpentier's Louise, and Truelove from The Rake's Progress, Liu from Turandot, Magda de Chivry from La Rondine, Micaela from Carmen, Marguerite Valois from Les Huguenots, Donna Anna from Don Giovanni, Marguerite from Faust, Isabelle from Robert le Diable, and even Gwendoline from Chabrier's Gwendoline. The possibilities for Martina Russomanno are absolutely endless so long as she continues to strengthen her technique and ensure that her voice maintains its sheen and brilliance from bottom to top. I would not want to hear her vocal resources loosen with a wobble because she has sufficient vocal security to ensure great conscientiousness with what roles she is picking, as well as what roles she is choosing to be in her repertoire for many years to come. And her performance as Madama Cortese demonstrated that she has sufficiently wonderful vocal charisma and an equally elegant stage presence to make her stand out so well as an overall performer. So I still have to give Martina Russomanno a whole series of bravas because of her sterling portrayal as Madama Cortese. Equally as wonderful were Lilith Daftian's equally sterling Corinna, Stephanie Wake Edwards' plush and confident Marquesa Melibella, Hye-Young Moon's sparkling Contessa de Folleville, Michot Marrero's charismatic Modestina, Davia Boulet's gorgeous Delia, Alexandra Ionis's wonderfully plush Maddalena, Omar Mancini's sexy and virile Conte de Libenskov, Cal Miller's dashing and handsome Don Alvaro, Kang Yun-Shine Lee's brilliant and engaging Cavalier Belfiore, Jared Wereline's tall and handsome Antonio, Alvaro Zambrano's brilliant and characterful Don Luigino, Zeffirino, and Gelsomino combined into one as Zeffirino, Michal Baghdad's round voice Lord Sydney, Artur Garbas's resonant Don Profondo, Hork Rowan's finely handsome Don Prudencio, and Philip Yekal's charismatic Barone di Trombonok. Everybody managed to do such a great uniform effort from beginning to end, and they were all wonderfully charismatic performers that I would love to watch and listen to over and over again. The conducting done by Alessandro De Marchi was brilliantly focused, as well as thoroughly engaging and also conscientious of where he has to be in the music. He paid great attention to the text and the score, thus ensuring that all the singers and the orchestra members remain in sync, And what more can you expect from the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin? They were all brilliant and also ensured great syncopation with the singers in everything that they've accomplished. There was no doubt that Martina Russomanno stole the show and led the helm as Madama Cortese. Her silken and absolutely gorgeous lyric soprano voice that had that velvety and chiffon-like emission and sufficient agility to boot, with a lot of silvery tones falling out of her mouth, made her a welcome singer to witness. She definitely has a lot of wonderful potential to continue to grow. She is still quite young and fresh, and I would love to see that silky, creamy lyric soprano voice continue to glow, grow, and bloom with richness, beauty, and a whole lot of exceptional technique. The future is bright for Signorina Martina Russomanno, and I would not want to see and hear her squander her talents, because that is a delicately silky and wonderfully silvery lyric soprano voice right there that has wonderful agility. She definitely has a great deal of potential to keep on growing and keep on flourishing with awesome technique, as well as a whole lot of wonderful abandon to ensure that her vocal resources remain at an all-time high. She also led her fellow singers to wonderful excellence with everything that she's got, from the more veteran performers such as Michael Bachtatze to the younger singers such as Omar Mancini, Kang Yun-Shine Lee, and Hye-Young, and let's not forget about Lilith Daftian. Everybody was at their all-time high, and Martina Russomanno reigned supreme as a singer that I would gladly continue to look out for in the best possible way, let alone in the best way possible. And for those of you who caught this performance of Rossini's Il Viaggio a Reims at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what'd you think of it? Did you feel that Martina Russomanno was able to sing so beautifully as Madama Cortese? Did you also feel that she was at her all-time best in this role? And for those of you who caught her previously as Corinna in Pesaro, did you like her performance more as Madama Cortese more than her performance as Corinna? Was there another singer who stole her thunder? Or did you feel like Martina Russomanno's singing was not really to your liking and you probably felt like it should use a lot more development? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Rossini's Il Viaggio a Reims at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, starring Martina Russomanno as Madama Cortese. Tune in tomorrow for my tribute to Popeye the Sailor's Let's Celebrate. So until then, Happy New Year, everybody!